Yo, what's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday morning. Kind of like wake up call from like the rape crew. They're coming through. Like, yo, they want to put me on blast. They want to be like, yo, them white girls, them guri, the Pakis, the Punjabis. Like, they want to just like stick it in so badly. And when you reclassify groups of men as like potential threats and dangers for the source of protection and shit, right? Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? Isn't that what like black people were like labeled? Not like not too long ago, but like kind of throughout history, like throughout my life. I'm pretty sure like yes, there are individuals, but like it was more or less a scapegoat thing, and then it was like a going thing where the scapegoating and then like the duplicitous nature of certain individuals just made it an ongoing thing where it was more or less the same individuals, like same repeat individuals doing it, but then the entire like group classification labeled and then racism and then like, all these like you can argue and you just go back and watch movies from the 80s and shit, right? Like it wasn't easy for, individuals growing up in that time and trust me, like even I could like most likely I was insensitive to it at the time and I took like sort of pleasure because I wasn't one of them. But then, like I wasn't treated any better, and then I realized like why I was doing it, why everybody was doing it, being racist or this or that, because you just want the fucking attention and shit, right? You want to feel like you're special or something. So why am I bringing this up? Is because it oftentimes when you dehumanize people, right? You tend to forget like what they go through, how they suffered and shit, and again, like African Americans, black people, Africans, they suffered a great deal, but like they oftentimes get lumped in with like individuals or groups or bad things and stuff. Like I just like I know I'm commenting on this again, but I watched a video by Stevie Knight, Night Talks with a K. It's a cool name. And it's just like this ugly, like you know what I mean? It's like I'm gonna sound kind of rude by saying this. You know those like pageants you have for like little girls and shit. I'm sorry, but like he looks like one of those like dolled up like little kids and stuff for some reason. He's just like ugly and like wrinkly and shit, and he's just like randomly going up to black people and trying to start shit with them, and he has a gun on him. It's just like what the fuck, actually. You know what I mean? Like you're filming yourself doing this, and I commented on this. I commented on this. Remember what I said? I'm just, everyone's getting tired of these fucking people going up with like cameras and getting in people's faces and being rude for the sake of fucking being rude, and like they want attention and they want like girls and pussy. Yo, the beginning of the fucking video, right? The beginning of I'm gonna link the video. The beginning of the video, the guy goes up to like, and no, he's walking by like a couple on a street, and they're like a mixed race couple. He's like, yeah, fucking loser, get yourself a white girl. I'm like, you fucking retard. Oh my god, man. This is what it's come to, dude. This is what it like, like the enabling of this shit. Like, whoever has, his social media sites and shit should like, do a fucking U-turn on this guy. This ain't content, man. This is like abuse to people, and you're just like filming it, like, and it's not like, um, I don't like any of it actually. I don't like the more innocent shit. Like there's no such thing as innocent shit, and you could argue like it all started with like the Jack Dohertys and all these people getting into fucking people's faces and being annoying for the sake of being annoying and shit in public, and it's like fuck out of here, man. Like, and you could argue, oh, that was when I was a kid, or like that was just like some childish content and shit, and like we were just new to the internet. And yeah, like people are young and shit, right? But then like you look at this guy, and he's like strapped. What the fuck, actually? You know what I mean? And he's like going up to like random black people, and, like harassing them and shit, right? So like, and calling them chimps and like n word over and 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 over again, like so many times that like you're like I'm watching this and like my parents are probably like listening to it and they're probably getting uncomfortable with it because I have the volume too loudly and shit. Like I'm like wondering what the fuck is this? This is like turn this shit off. But no, this is the world we live in. Was he in Florida or something? Yeah, I'm gonna link the video. I don't know. I'll just rewatch it. It was like a little bit hard to watch. Anyways, I bring that up because so when we dehumanize people, we forget the shit that they go through, like the suffering that they go through and like the hardships and shit, and we don't learn from it. And history tends to repeat, right? If you don't learn from history, it's just gonna happen again, right? Ah, sorry about that. I had to get some water. My throat was dry. So what I'm gonna get into is like the whole October 7th attack and subsequently what happened afterwards. Excuse me. Because I think the most important detail is left out that most people, because more than likely, the media circus around this being air quotes genocide perpetrated by the IDF against the innocent Hamas individuals and shit that are hiding plain clothes behind civilians in hospitals. And this is documented and shit, right? But I'm not going to get into the whole minutia of that because the most important detail, at least pertaining to this topic, is what they did to an individual, right? Now, one of these individuals that was captured during the October 7th attack was taken back to the Hamas area as a prisoner and kept in these extensively dug, and they're even finding it out now, like it's just massive, like how big these tunnels are, how far they stretch, what their uses were, obviously moving ammunition and soldiers and shit. um and yeah, they kept them down there and they starved them. And they not only did that, they documented it, and they had like a calendar, and they um, basically for additional torture and to like use it as like, I guess, negotiation to whatever. Like, yeah, it's sick, it's disgusting, it's demonic, right? Now people forgot that, even though I didn't. And the reason why I'm bringing that up now is history is repeating itself. So the Strait of Hormuz, right? And I'm naive to it, right? When you're dealing with like bodies of water, oceans, it's not like land. It's actually vast. It's huge. There's more ocean than there is land. So space-wise, the Strait of Hormuz and shit. Like if you're just like passing off the coast and you're just like out at sea, and then like you're being blockaded by the IRGC, and like they won't let you move. You can't leave. You're running out of like supplies, fresh water. I don't know if they like have a desalination mechanism in these boats. If they do, then that's good. If they don't, then they have a limited supply of drinking water, a limited supply of food, and they've been out at sea for 2 months and they are starving. And some of them have actually died. Apparently, 11. Um, yeah, various nationalities. None of them involved. Not American, not Iranian. Just out there trying to do trade with like on an international scale. They just happen to use that place at the wrong time, and it's being used, exploited as like a mechanism for, again, negotiations. Like, look at us, we're torturing these people. You're causing this. Do what we want, or else they're just gonna like starve and die. And then there was just an address from Marco Rubio about like their military operations and how they're just going to move in to seize them and like stop this from happening and rescue these people, because, and this is the cold truth that everybody has to swallow. Despite what everybody else says, you shouldn't listen to them. The only people you should listen to are the people willing to help these boats out there. The fact that like I could possibly turn on the news and they're not going to mention it, or I can like go about my day to day, and like the only time this is going to get mentioned is like after the fact, like after the operation was like like taking place, the rescues have happened, and then like the talking points, the hydra of the demon just like spews forth mainstream media, fake news, whatever, bought and paid for by like out like non-governmental things, NGOs, whatever, SPLC. And this all sounds like conspiracy theory bullshit until like you follow the logic and then you realize like this isn't anything new. Like this has been going on for so long that you're just numb to it and you don't think it's happening so much because it's happened so much and like it feels like it's normal, right? Like so easily we forgot like the tactics of an enemy of a tyrannical force that not only did it to its own people but did it to like other groups of people, starving, dehydrating, you know, beating, raping, burning, hanging, shooting. We just ignore it. It just happens. Oh, it's only 30 because that's the number that they reported on. It's only 30,000, whatever, 35,000. It's not that big of a number. Or is it? Are you sure about that? I remember I made a video back, a while back, talking about the slaughter in Sudan and stuff, and that how you can see the bodies from satellites and shit. I mean, we gotta get our heads out of our asses and like, really confront the problem like head on and say, look, religion appease my ass. Okay? Like what the fuck are we actually talking about? What are we actually talking about? And I don't give a fuck about like all these like rich, well-to-do oil states and like, oh, we wash our hands of this. This has nothing to do with us. No, I'm blanket statement saying this shit. I want to protect the human race, and we have to go about it like this. Okay? Since they're so adamant about, the essays, the grapes, so I gotta like, try to like stop saying it so much because we live in this like, automated, insulated world where saying the truth, as vulgar and as, um, you know, offensive to some as it is, like, they just don't want you to know and like, let people know. And then they hide behind the guise of it being vulgar, about it being, hysteric. Oh, this is just propaganda. Where's your evidence? You can't prove this. Dude, we have a literal compound in the UK. A literal compound. Shipping girls back to Pakistan, to Punjab, to be gang raped, to be utilized as a de facto concubine for a race of people that are using them because of their inbreeding, because of their, desire to usurp and rule white people. And not only are there people within the Caucasian race that are complicit with this, like Keir Starmer, but they're also like they themselves, right? The Sikhs, the Pakistanis, they stand to lose from this. Like the thing is, right? Especially now, the Sikhs are trying to distance themselves from the Pakistanis in regards to like all these like heinous crimes and shit, because more than likely people are going to find out about Jaskar and Judge. They're going to find out about the Huddersfield grooming gang. They're going to find out about various other individuals, up and down, running organizations and embedded with other Pakistanis. And they're going to scratch their head and be like, "Hey, I thought you guys were on our side, right?" I'm pretty sure there are some good Sikhs. Like this one Sikh out there who's like, just having a family business. Which like I feel bad for this guy because I throw a lot of shade on the Sikhs and shit. But like, you got to understand something, right? The reason why I'm doing this is because even he himself is feeling the fucking ramifications of this, right? So what I mean by that is He's having his family business. He has his wife, his child, right? And then, whatever, serving food. He doesn't believe in serving a type of preparation that's against his faith. Okay, fair. And people are harassing him over that. It's like, why don't you have a halal cuisine? And it's like, I don't believe in that, right? And it's kind of cartel-ish. Like you're running a, yeah, cartel. Like what do you call that again? When you basically control the supply and demand of, like, food and whatever, right? And he has his food, buys it, whatever, prepares it himself religiously or something, and then they just start harassing his business. They start coming up to him, and then he gets pissed, and he's just like, you know what, fuck you guys. I'm not a bitch. I'm just gonna come out and, like, be as offensive as humanly possible, but, like, you got to understand where he's coming from. The cops aren't going to protect him. They're, like, literally, like, crowds of people coming up to his business, harassing him, preventing, customers from coming in. Even though word of mouth comes out that, like, he has, like, this problem, and then, like, the food in his store, and people are trying to come through and shit. Like, they're vandalizing his place. They're, whatever. And guess what? I don't see other Sikhs defending him. I just don't. Now, why is that? Hmm. It's sad though, isn't it? Like, like I said, right? One of the things that I would, regret is having a kid and then having someone, assault them. It's just like something I don't think I could. I don't want to. I don't want to live through it. I don't think I can handle it. I'm gonna tell you, like, right now, that possibly that would be the breaking point for me. You know, So you kind of have this, like, funny feeling that people don't even, like, care, if even if it's their own kid and shit. And this guy, like, left out there stranded and stuff is the byproduct of, like, that fucking background, that pedophilic belief of, like, enslaving a white woman for some reason. Well, I know the reasons, financial, and, like, to usurp the, you know, local population and shit. Like, the more and more I see it, right, and it hits me, like, personally and shit too. That when they say sing Hortons and shit, right? But when you see, like, the demographic replacement of pretty much everybody in, like, these kinds of jobs and shit, and you could argue, but, like, other people didn't want to work those jobs, and no, it's bullshit, man. Now that I know that it's pure bullshit, and it's also, like, some insider shit for, like, scamming up them student visas to, like, stay up in the country, like, permanently and stuff, having, like, millions and millions of them come through with, no background checks. And do you think there's an infrastructure in their country and shit where they come from, and, like, who commits crimes, and, who does this, who does that? It's like a government that can easily be bribed, that can easily be, like, swayed because of, like, political leanings and shit, or, like, religious beliefs. And it's just, it's a zero-sum game is what I'm trying to say. And then, like, you extend that to the IRGC, you extend that to, like, even, like, Hassan Piker and all these other, like, fucked up individuals. Like, what is their end game? And it's obvious. Like, people have to suffer for them. That's it. That's what they want. So, knowing this, right? Knowing that the Jewish man who starved and became, like, literally emaciated, and we didn't learn from that, and now it's happening to these boats out in the Strait of Hormuz, and it's happened before. The people in Sudan are getting slaughtered, nobody cares. People in Nigeria are getting slaughtered, nobody cares. It's something that we have to open our eyes to and realize that as human beings, we can stop this, we can prevent this, but only by understanding that life defeats death and strength defeats weakness. So, in the case of these individuals who prey upon children, prey upon women, understand that their time is over. Um, we are united. You don't have to like me. I don't care. But I stand with the human race. I don't want people to be afraid of this anymore. I don't want to be afraid of this anymore. And I don't want to cower in fear. I think the easiest way to achieve victory is understanding capital, understanding, demographics, and just try to be attractive. I know it's that the last sounds shallow and chat, but it's the least you can do. Like you like pretty girls and you're whatever, have kids, you can win. The world's on our side. I mean, not everybody obviously, but nobody has to suffer in silence as long as you just don't forget. All right? Take care.